All the roll and go, where am I to go? Meet Johnny, where am I to go? For I'm a young and a sailor lad, and where am I to go?
Hello, and welcome to Where Am I to Go podcast. Today we are in Deer Lodge, Montana, which is between Butte, Montana and Missoula, just about halfway, isn't it?
Yep.
And we are with Heather, and we are at the Montana Territorial Prison.
That's what it was originally, and then it became the state prison.
Oh, so now we're at the Montana State Prison. Now this prison's been shut down for...
Since 1979.
Okay.
Yep.
And they have a nice facility here, and Heather is going to take us on a journey through, I think it's going to be some paranormal life, some prison life, some different things that happened here.
Yep.
And I am excited for this tour, but along with this, Deer Lodge is a nice little town. I've traveled through it many times. They've got, another 4 or 5 museums here.
Well, yeah, the prison complex is made up of 5 museums, and then once you've done here, other end of town is the Federal Grant Corps Ranch.
And the Grant Corps Ranch is, it's a working horse ranch.
Oh, yeah, it's working horse, yeah.
Yeah, it's a working horse ranch. They have the Grant
It's a
Corps,
ranch.
Every year they have a great big draft horse show here.
They do. Unfortunately, this year it got canceled.
Along with so many other things.
Others, yeah.
But I've been through here when the draft horses were here. That's a phenomenal show.
Yes,
it's usually in September?
No, they've changed it now. It's now in end of June and beginning of July, depending on the weekend it falls. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing to see all the draft horses in harness, and they actually work the horses and some of that kind of stuff. Absolutely. I don't know that we will be hitting that, but I want to hit your other 4 museums. Here in Deer Lodge, you've got the Prison Museum, the
Auto Museum.
And how many cars did you say?
168 cars.
Okay, and we are going to be doing a podcast on that. This is going to be a 4-part podcast since we've got 4 museums to hit.
Right.
You've also got the...
Yesterday's Playthings, which is all about, toys from the past. And then we have Frontier, Montana, which has got a lot of, guns and artifacts, even got what's his name? Colonel Custer's teacup and teapot.
Well, I guess we'll be excited to see that.
Yep. And
so
then,
this will be a 4-part series.
Yep. And then you got the Powell County Museum.
Okay.
Which is just artifacts from this area.
Okay, and we'll see if we get time to hit that one today.
Right.
But yes, this will be 4 different parts, so stay tuned in Deer Lodge, Montana. Yep. Deer Lodge is a really neat little town. It is a small town.
Yes,
You've got a population of what?
It's about 3,000.
Okay.
It's dwindling.
And it's right off of I-90.
Yes, it is.
And you'll see the signs come in both directions for the prison and the car museum both.
Yep.
And as far as a recreational area, this place sits right in the middle of all kinds of recreation. Great fishing, great hiking.
Yep. Hunting,
4-wheeling, hunting, all of that stuff for outdoor recreation is available right here in Deer Lodge. Highly recommend stopping here if you've got your camper on the back and you want to play for a day or two. This would be an awesome place to do it.
And river rafting, because the river runs right through town.
Okay, and is there some good rapids and whitewater rafting and stuff?
No, I don't think it's as bad as that, but it's fun to float the river.
Okay.
A lot of people float the river and they just keep going.
And is this the Clark's Fork River?
Clark Fork River.
The Clark Fork River. Okay.
Yep.
Well, Heather, let's get on with our tour here and see where we end up. I know where I am.
All right.
Welcome to prison.
Well,
welcome
to prison, dude. You're not getting out. Okay, so originally it was a territorial. And the funny fact about that was before the wall was built, they had a wooden fence, and reportedly the winds were so bad in Montana that it would keep blowing down and all the inmates would leave. And at the end of the day, the sheriff would round them up at the saloons and bring them back.
Did he give them $10 before they left so that they would stay in the saloons?
Nope. Yeah, but they kind of stopped doing that when they realized that the officers were crack shots. They were like sniper shots. So that kind of stopped. And then when it became a state, Obviously, they needed a state prison because they were tired of the vigilante type thing. So then this was started. And what we see there, which you guys can't see, but there's the original concrete where the original cell house, the first cell house, was built. And that was built in 1876. And then it was destroyed in 1959 in the earthquake.
And what we're looking at here, that she's describing, is a great big concrete slab that's probably 40 feet wide and 50 yards long. Right. Is kind of what I'm guessing. And I guess that's where the original, the very first cell house was.
You kind of got to remember that when the prison was put up, there was no town. So the town was built around the prison. So when you came here in the old days, what you would see is this massive, great fortress-looking thing, and there's nothing there, you know.
Okay.
So it's really neat. Then when the warden Conley, who is actually the longest surviving prison warden in the United States, long service, and then one of the first things he did, he built this wall, and it was all inmates. Everything you see in here now was built by inmates.
Okay.
Even making, they did the bricks. They even made the bricks.
Oh, really? Out of local materials?
Yep, all in this valley.
And did they quarry all of this rock? Okay, and what we're seeing here that she's describing as a wall is it's a wall that's probably 12, 14 foot tall?
No, it's actually 23 to 24 foot tall. It goes 4 feet down in the ground.
Okay.
And then you've got the granite on top where the guards would have to walk the wall.
And it's kind of tiered. I see stairs going along the top of the wall where they must have been able to walk up to the next level.
Yeah, pretty scary in the wintertime.
Oh, I'll bet it was.
Because it's only 3 feet. It's basically 3 feet wide. So in the wintertime, it was nasty. A couple of accidents may have happened.
I'm sure.
Yep.
And this wall is all rock wall.
It's actually sandstone, and the top is granite.
Okay.
Yep. And it was all quarried here in the valley by the inmates.
Okay, and then you've got turrets or castle-like features in each corner, which must have been where the guards were stationed. Yep. And they stick up a little bit higher, and they do look very castle-ish.
They do, and then you've got the whole time that they were up here, when the guards would be armed with rifles, so you'd always have some rifle pointing at you somewhere.
Right. And this is a pretty good-sized courtyard. I'd say, what are we, 100 yards wide, maybe 300 yards long?
Well, this entire complex is 6 city blocks.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about 9 acres.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is quite large.
Yeah.
And that's including the housing and some of that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But this courtyard that we're in is pretty good-sized also, other than a lot of it's taken up by this original foundation.
Yeah, what used to be here, there's buildings that used to be here that are no longer here, and you'll be able to see those as you walk. There's placards that'll show you that. Obviously, over the time, they deteriorated or they were pulled down. Like that big concrete here.
Uh-huh.
When that got torn down, then they stuck up these big Quonset huts and used them as a classroom and a gymnasium. Okay. And then that was moved to the new prison 5 miles west.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the new prison still has parts of the old prison.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And the state prison is still here in Deer Lodge.
Yep, 5 miles west.
Okay.
City of Lights. It's not Las Vegas. I guarantee you it's not Las Vegas. Well, I don't know. I shouldn't say that. I don't know what goes on up there.
Maybe worse than Las Vegas.
I know, right? So actually, when you think about this, so if you look at that cell house,
okay,
the 1912.
And that one's all brick.
Yep. And so this one that was here was very similar to that.
Okay.
But it didn't have electric, water, or heat.
Ooh, that had to have been a little bit tough in the winter. I mean, tough in the summer too, but...
Well, you got to remember, people in those days were a lot hardier than people today.
Oh, definitely.
They don't... people today, I don't know what they would do without their little luxuries.
Right.
But I just wanted to show you this part, because this would all have been attached to that cell house.
Okay.
And there's the original dungeon.
Okay.
But we can't go down because the stairs, it's dangerous.
Right.
Yeah. But that was closed down in 1966 by the FBI.
Okay,
Because
and what happened in the dungeon? Is that where the bad of the bad went?
No, actually, from looking at records, it was basically kind of if you look the wrong way at somebody, that's where you'd go.
And solitary confinement
Yeah,
situation?
it's the dungeon. They called it the dungeon.
Okay.
And it was bread and water,
Oh,
you know, and there's no lights or anything. It's underground. And then it was closed down when the steam pipes burst and an inmate was killed.
oh,
So, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So would have that maybe been kind of like the death row part
Nope.
also, or did they have a death row here?
There supposedly is a death row cells, and that's in the old hospital, which that's currently under construction right now.
Okay.
But there are some cells in the middle, and then yeah. But death row in Montana was originally hanging,
Right.
but now it's lethal injection.
Yeah.
But the gallows, which we'll see when we go out, that's the original hanging gallows.
And they're still here.
They're still here, but in Montana, you were hanged in the state you were sentenced in. So that's why they call it the galloping gallows, because they would take it apart, transport it, put it together, hang the person, take it down, go to the next county, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, wow.
Only 2 inmates were actually hanged inside this prison, but they were hanged with a different type of device. And we'll see that, a replica of it, when we get further in.
Okay.
Yeah. Because, you know, you just crossed the line and you didn't look down.
I saw
So
that
it's a really good,
out of bounds.
really good job. That guard is sleeping right now up in that tower.
That out of bounds was for the prisoners.
Yeah,
saying that they were out of their courtyard.
Yeah, and you probably would have got shot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Just like that.
yeah. And that was just about a 1.5 foot wide red line
Yep.
that said out of bounds
bounds.
on it.
Yep.
And I was wondering if we were going to cross that line because we were talking just on the
I
one
was
side, but
watching. I was waiting for you to see if you would notice it.
I did
yeah.
notice. I just didn't bring it up any further.
See, you know where you would have ended up in prison? If you would.
I'd have probably ended up there if I was in prison, whether I stepped out of bounds or not.
Okay, so as a prisoner, they would have brought you through into this area.
This would have been check-in.
Nope, this is actually straight from the main street.
Okay.
They would just walk you in. Actually, the guy upstairs would have, and it was like this the entire time this prison was operational. There's a key on a rope.
Okay.
So they would come to this door. He'd yell up. That guard would lower the key. He'd unlock this door. They'd come in, lock it behind him. He would yell through this little device.
This is a tube with a funnel.
Yeah, this is like the old ships, you know,
Right.
like the ships on the ship. And then they would send down a rope here. He would hook the key. They'd drag it back up, send the next one down, open this door, and then you'd do it until you got out into the main yard.
Oh my goodness.
You talk about manual door locks.
On this part, yeah.
Right.
And it's funny because, you know, when you think about it, nobody escaped from this prison.
Really? Nobody in the whole time it was
Not
operating?
in prison. They escaped from like the cow camps and the road crews, but not from the prison itself. They tried.
After they got the wall built.
Yeah, after they got the wall built. Yeah.
When they no longer had wooden
Yeah, but you got to
wall.
remember the wooden fence was the territorial prison. This is the state prison, so
Okay.
it's totally different. So when you come through here and you're back out, as a prisoner, you would have looked and went, okay, this is the end of the rest of my life, right? Because this is what you're going to
Right.
see. Little did he know that he's being watched because the guard up there can't see you.
Okay.
So he peeks through that mirror and he can see everything you're doing. Yeah. And then
So
they
that's
would have
that's a
taken it.
two-way mirrors.
Nope, that's just a one-way.
I mean, one-way mirror,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So he can see what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then they would have marched you in here and then your new life would have started. If you can call it that. Right?
Well, it was a different life,
Oh,
whether
yeah.
it was new or not.
Yep. And you know, this prison is now actually 2 days ago. No, yesterday. What's today? The 3rd? July 2nd. 149 years ago. The very first prisoner walked in here.
Really?
Yeah.
Into the state prison or territorial?
1871.
Okay.
Okay. And then, like I said, the way it was operational, it was the same kind of operations through the whole time until 79.
That is really interesting.
Right?
Now, most of the other prisons around the country, did they update, or were a lot of them still working on the old plan like this one was, or was this one really unique? Do you know?
Well, I do know that I've been told that the 1912 cell house was a set of precedents for indoor plumbing.
Okay.
For prison. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So when you walk in here, this is called the administration building, and it's yes, we do have a guard standing on guard right there. Usually scares everybody.
Yeah. We just came into this administration building.
Administrative building.
Administrative building. And as we come in here, there's a desk with a big chain link fence all the way around it with a guard standing on the inside. And it just startled Linda my travel companion here. And she was startled a little bit. But you see a picture of Abraham Lincoln. You've kind of got a lobby that's 12 foot wide, 20 foot long, something like that, with bars on all of the doors, windows, and again, chain link fence going down through different areas.
So when this was, when it was operational, obviously some of this was slightly different, obviously,
right.
But for tourists, to make it easy for tourists, they changed things to show you how it worked. So what we do is, this is actually the visitors area where the inmates could visit with their families.
And it was all open like this, so
no,
when they were
this actually used to be like a plexi with the speak holes.
Okay. Just like what you see in TV.
Right, and these benches are authentic.
Okay.
So they would have them sitting right here.
Okay.
And the family would be able to talk. They'd bring the inmates through these doors here. And then all the paintings that you see in here were all done by inmates, even Abe Lincoln.
Okay.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. And you've got a big picture here that's probably 4 feet by 8 foot. It looks about like the size of a piece of plywood that has a overview of the prison.
As it was in 1971.
Right. Okay.
So remember I told you about those metal Quonset huts?
Right.
Now you can see them.
Right.
And then on the other side of that theater, you'll see another kind of metal building. That was the new mess hall when it started becoming overcrowding.
Okay.
And they had to kind of revert certain areas into different places, for use.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was done in 1971. And I always laugh about it because if you look up there, you can see the cat. You see the cat in the yard?
Right, chasing the bird.
Reportedly, that cat the nurse asked if they could have a cat to kill the mice. But they told us that cat never caught a mouse in its life because the inmates would feed it so much. But it stayed there, and that's why they put it there, because it was such a big part of the prison.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
And what was the cat's name?
You know what? Right at the top of my head, I can't remember. But when we go into Max, there's a little blurb on there.
Okay.
That's his name.
Okay.
I want to say Kyle, but
did the inmates do like the etching on the glass?
Yep.
There's a door here with some sailboats and some of that's
just about every piece of art you see in here was done by inmates.
Wow.
Some
talented people.
Exactly. That is actually the new state prison, but it's changed now. It's a whole lot different. But that's kind of a plan of the new one.
Okay.
When it first was being built and stuff.
And then you've got a picture down here at the end of an Indian with a bow on a horse chasing a buffalo.
Yep.
I should say Native American, but I slipped up here, as I do often.
Okay, so when you're walking through here, now you've come into the central hub, and it's kind of like this is where prisoners were processed in and processed out. Here's some of the colorful characters that were here over the years, so you can see the different types of uniforms.
Right.
That they were.
Some of them have stripes. Some of them are just black. Some of them kind of look like suit coats. And there's one with a suit coat and a stripe.
Well, yeah, it's they would give them the overcoats when it got cold.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then when you move into this area, This was all telephone communications, social services, the chaplain, all those kind of people were in here.
And now this doesn't have any bars on the doors or anything else, so the inmates were secured when they were brought in here? Okay, so there
would be a guard.
Leg locks and
I don't know if they'd have leg locks. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. But there was always a guard sitting here as well. I'm sure they were shackled.
Right.
But then you have a display. There's a kind of an example of what some of the prison clothes were like.
And this isn't just pictures. This is actual clothing.
Artifacts.
Yeah, and artifacts. And a picture of a guy there in the gallows, George Rock, it says, from 1908.
Yeah, those two guys right there, they committed murder on the deputy warden Robinson.
Oh.
In here.
In here.
Yeah, we'll go into his room.
Okay.
So these are the two guys that were hanged inside the yard. And as you can see, it's a different kind of device.
Right.
But I'll talk to that on the other side when we see that. So yeah, it's just basically a sort of administrative part.
Right. And there's just several offices here. You've got the mail room and the chaplain and the social services office and the director.
Right.
And so when they were in here, it was more to take care of business, I guess.
And then you can kind of see some of the artifacts for booking. But when you look at the table here, look at the stamps.
Okay.
And it's kind of, do you see the names on the stamps?
Right.
That's what they would put on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it politically correct to say this? I mean, there's female. We know that that's gender, whatever. And it says Indian and Negro, and these are all old stamps.
Yes.
A lot of these terms have been.
These are early, like 1900s.
Right. Well, some of those wouldn't have been an issue until 15, 20 years ago.
Right, right.
And they've got a camera here. It looks like one of the old style cameras with the cloth that comes over the back of the head and a little seat. They don't have the height chart there.
They didn't do that in those days.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just basically a backdrop. And they would, on a majority of them, you'll see it would always be a right profile and a front profile.
And the other thing I'm noticing in this little photography room is that you've got a billboard on the back or a pegboard that has all kinds of pictures. And I see about 3 men and about 15 women. So did this?
There's not 15 women up there.
How many women is there? I see
There's
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
I think it's
7,
an equal amount.
8. Okay, there's 8 or 10 women. There maybe isn't 15, but I just had to take a guess. We're doing a podcast here, and I didn't have time to count. I was talking.
You're being biased against women.
No, the question really was this a female prison also?
It was.
And that's where I was wanting to go with this.
That was me. Yeah, no, it was a female prison as well. And you'll see the original female prison.
And did they keep them? They must have kept them separated.
In the beginning, they did, but there wasn't anything really for women, and so women were basically kept in their cells 24 hours a day.
Ooh.
Yeah, and then in 1907, that's when they thought, okay, more and more women are coming to prison. We need to put an actual prison in here for women.
And the thing that's interesting about this to me is I wouldn't think there were that many women criminals. I mean, just looking at the board again, we've got 10 of them here.
But you've got, this is a span, these pictures are actually spanning from early 1800s to 1960s.
Okay.
Okay, so it's kind of like, yeah, women were tough in those days.
Well, I know they were tough. They had to be tough in order to live out here and put up with the riffraff. That's right. You're not joking. I mean, the men were tough. They were occupied with all of their occupations. They were out on the range for weeks and months on end. Women had a tough life. This was not a good life for women.
No, it wasn't. And coming to prison was actually worse for women than it was for men. So,
that's what it sounds like. That's an interesting little twist there.
Women were very much or like pushed down, even in prison. And then you're going to come to different stuff the inmates made.
Well, that's a nice display. We've got a picture of, I'm assuming that's JFK.
JFK and his brother.
Okay, yeah. And then you've got a lot of beadwork.
Yep, Native American
A lot of
beadwork.
beadwork and basketry, little tiny baskets. What were those used for? We're talking about a basket that's probably the size of 2 fingers down to the first knuckle.
These are like pendants,
Okay.
or for Native American, they might use for their ceremonies, you know. But a lot of this is Native American
Okay.
here. Wow. And then we have the medical room, which when you look at those instruments, that would make you never want to come
Yes.
to an
Or
infirmary.
if you did once, you'd never want to go back.
Yep. So those are all actual artifacts from the prison that they actually used.
And we've got a leg brace and a back brace that look like it'd be more painful than the backache or the
Yes.
broken leg. We've got a dental chair here with some pretty primitive equipment. Yeah, just lots and lots of medical equipment. But we do have a white coat in there, so the doctor must have been at least sanitary to some degree.
Towards, I would probably say 50s,
Okay.
you know,
And there's an old wheelchair and of course the bedpan.
Yep.
And the bed does not look comfortable at all. That thing can't be more than 1.5 feet wide and 6 feet long, and it's just a metal frame. And
Well, you have to remember,
pad
in prison, it's not like you would in the outside world. You were in and you were out.
Right.
It's like, yeah, it wasn't made for luxury.
Right. Those changes didn't start, and I wouldn't say it's probably luxurious now, but those changes didn't come until the 70s, I don't think.
Right. And then you've got some bits of contraband in here that they made, you know, like chocolate tins, hot chocolate tins, they turned into radio speakers.
Okay.
There's also one here, which I think is great. The old Wilkerson sword razor blades, and they attached it to wire. That's when electric was in prison.
Right.
And they plug it in. Well, everyone thinks it's a weapon. It can be used as a weapon, sure. But they used to drop it in their water and it would boil so they'd have hot coffee.
Now,
Isn't that
ingenious?
neat? Yes.
You know, I listen to another podcast quite often called, Erlon. Why can't I remember the name of it now?
I'm not
Ear Hustle.
Okay.
And Ear Hustle is straight out of San Quentin.
Okay.
And he was in San Quentin for a long time. He's out now, but they were doing the podcast from inside the prison. And he would talk about all kinds of strange and interesting ways that they communicate, like when they'd flush toilets.
Yep.
They'd send notes down to other people that would have their arms hanging out in the sewer pipe waiting for the message to come through, and they would trade things back and forth. And they had to get ingenious.
Oh, yeah.
And they had to come up and devise a lot of things in
It
order to
always
make
makes-
life a little bit more comfortable for
It always
themselves.
makes me amazed that, you know, if only they could have used their smarts on the outside, some of these people could have been millionaires.
Yeah,
When
we've
you think
got
about
books here that are cut open. They cut all the pages out so they can put little contraband stuff in there. I can't really
Drugs.
tell what that is. Drugs.
Drugs.
Okay.
Marijuana.
Drugs. Probably some shanks and some of that
Oh,
kind of
I'll
stuff.
show you the shanks.
Yeah,
There's
they've
other
got
ones.
lots of little pipes that are carved. This display is really interesting. Now, they weren't allowed to have any music in prison, is that correct?
Yes, they could. They did, but
Why
it
did
was
they
just
need to make their own speakers and stuff?
a lot of it was just contraband.
Okay.
You know, just because you can't have it, they'll have it. Do you see what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
It's like you tell me no, I'm going to say yes.
Well,
That's how it works.
Kind of why part of them are here.
Yeah. And then you have what we have here is the guns are real. The bazooka is a replica of the bazooka that was used in 1959 to end that riot.
Tell me about that riot.
Okay, it was two gentlemen by the name of Jerry Miles and Lee Smart, which you can see their photographs here.
Right.
So Lee Smart was 19, Jerry was about 44. And they just decided to take over the prison. And 22 other inmates helped. So they took over the prison for 36 hours.
Wow.
And in that time, the next deputy warden was murdered.
So how many deputy wardens? Two deputy wardens.
Two,
have
and
been
it's a
murdered
really
here.
interesting when we go into there, how closely they were.
Okay.
in all aspects of it, you know. But they had them holed up in what we call the death tower, and the National Guard was called in, and they fired off the bazooka with stun grenades, and which you would think would have killed those two inmates,
Right.
but it didn't. They had already made a pact of suicide murder.
Okay.
So yeah,
So did they kill themselves? They did commit suicide, or?
commit suicide, and one shot the other.
Oh.
And from there's kind of a controversy on who shot whom, you know, but I believe that Jerry Miles, the older gentleman, shot the young boy, and then he shot himself. Yeah.
And what is this gun right here? It's we're looking at a gun that it looks a lot like a rifle, except it's got a huge barrel on it, and the projectile underneath is probably 1.25 inches in diameter and 12 inches long.
Yeah, it almost looks like a I can't think of the word. You and me both here.
This one, good. We're going to have fun today, aren't we?
Yeah. It almost looks like a shell from a cannon type thing.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's more of a stun.
Tear gas.
Yeah.
Tear
like
gas.
a stun used for sort of putting down a riot but not killing people.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you have the rifle and everything.
Yeah, there's a few guns here in this display, along with a bazooka sitting on top.
Yep. I know, right?
It is cool.
And then, of course, now, if you really want to know about it, that's the book to get. This book was written by Kevin Giles. His father was here as a guard when this happened.
Okay.
And his account of this prison and how it worked from the beginning, it is an absolutely fantastic book.
Okay, and the book is called Jerry's Riot.
Yep.
The True Story of Montana's 1959 Prison Disturbance.
Yep.
Well, it wasn't a riot, it was just
Oh, no, it was a riot. But it was just a little hiccup in the system. But it gained international. So, you know, Life
Wow.
magazine.
Yeah, they've got a bunch
everything.
of magazine articles here.
Yep,
And,
Life magazine.
I may have to buy that book.
It is.
Do you
so
have it
good.
at the
Yes,
gift store?
we do.
Yes.
It is a really good book. So then, now you come into what they call the deputy warden's office.
Okay.
And obviously the captain, okay, that doesn't show. The captain of the guard and the captain would be in here. And then the deputy warden's office is in there. And this is
It
where...
looks like he had a little bit more of a high-class office.
Yeah.
than what-
That is the warden, the painting.
Okay.
That's Warden Conley. But you have to remember, the warden and the deputy warden were never in the prison at the same time
Okay.
for safety reasons.
Right.
But when I was telling you about how close those two riots and the circumstances,
Uh-huh.
that's what we call it, a parallels in tragedy.
Okay, and the first one was in
So
1908.
1908, and this is Robinson, okay? He was killed by these two.
Okay.
And those two were hanged. This is the deputy warden, Rothy. He was shot in the heart by Lee Smart.
Okay.
Okay. Jerry Miles was a petty criminal. He wasn't really in here for major crimes, but he was in Alcatraz.
Oh.
And that's where he learned the art of rioting, was in Alcatraz.
So he
kind
was a
of like
master.
he was like the con boss.
Okay.
And then these two were friends. And,
Right.
and
She's doing parentheses with her fingers as far as what kind of friends they were.
yeah.
Okay.
And so, and then that bottom picture is him after the
Okay.
riot finished. And we don't put the other one up because it's even more graphic. And then you have the two blueprints basically of 1908 building,
Uh-huh.
or what in 1908 riot, the building that was here on top of this place. And then when they tore that building down, and this building went up, and there's a blueprint. And when you put it over, it's 15 feet. They died.
Oh,
spot.
really?
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And what year was this new building built?
1931.
1931. Okay.
Yeah, and that in here is very active at nighttime.
Paranormal. Let's go ahead and talk
Yeah,
about a little bit of your
paranormal.
paranormal.
Yeah,
Let's just get into a little
Yeah.
bit of this because it was something that you brought up when I had contacted you on this.
Well, the paranormal part of it, we do paranormal investigations here, and we invite the public. You book a spot and you come in, and I have all the equipment and stuff.
And you book this through the website?
No, you have to book it by phone, or you can email me, and
Okay.
it's on there. It's on the website.
On the website, okay.
We try to not overload it because it's more fun when you have smaller groups. And then we come in and we investigate and we contact and we make contact. And in here especially, it can get very nasty.
Really?
Very, very nasty.
And when you refer to nasty, you're talking...
Evil.
Okay.
Evil. Some people have been hurt on the investigations. Some people have been taken over. We hear footsteps. That front door has a tendency to slam on you.
Okay.
It gets very unnerving in here for some people.
And you have said that there's been several TV shows that...
Yes.
Why don't you explain some of those?
Destination Fear.
Okay. The reason that I want you to do that is people can go to these channels and be able to reference what you're talking about with the paranormal and maybe schedule a trip if they're interested.
Yep. So we just had Destination Fear here in March of this year. And then, because they're a new group and they go around all these haunted places, we've had Ghost Adventures. We're here a couple, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm sure everybody knows who they are. And then we've had Ghost Lab. And then we have different investigators from all over the United States who bring their teams in.
Right.
And they come in and do their investigations.
And what do they find? Are they finding
lots
much?
of things? They get dark shadows. They get knocks, bangs, doors slamming, people being scratched, hair being pulled. Women get touched up inappropriately. Men get touched up inappropriately as well. We've had people literally being taken over. I mean, you can actually see them, and then when they talk, it's not them. I mean, that can get a little...
Now, does that leave when they go out the doors, or does that stay with them?
No, we cleanse before they leave, but some people have a little bit of a lingering effect on it, But these are all the public. These are people who, I don't know them from Adam, and I just tell them this is what could happen, and if it happens, we'll try and protect you.
Wow. Yeah, so if anybody's interested in that,
absolutely.
Definitely come to the website. What is your website, as long as we're talking?
It's Old Montana Prison.
Old Montana Prison. I
just
found
look at that.
I found it by looking up the Montana Prison, Deer Lodge, Montana.
Sometimes
or Prison Museum, I think is what I typed in.
Sometimes the funny thing is that people who've never been here before, and they put it in their GPS, and the GPS will tell them, and then they end up at the checkpoint of the new prison.
Well,
that is hilarious.
That
is, it's funny when people have that happen to them. And so the last bit in here, obviously, is all the contraband shanks, all handmade by inmates. Every single one of them, even down to the knuckle dusters.
And where do they get some of these blades?
Okay, so you have to remember, this prison was actually self-sufficient. It had a lot of factories, a lot of stuff that the inmates could do. Okay, so there was a garment factory, a furniture factory, a shoe factory, brick kiln yard, a garage, mechanics, laundry, food, bakery, you name it. It was all in here. So in the old days, they were able to actually get their hands on stuff that nowadays they would never be able to. Or it would be very, I wouldn't say never be able to, it would be very hard to get some of this stuff. Okay, and so basically what they do is, they get the metal pieces and they cut them, and then they go outside on the concrete and they sharpen them up, and then they use them. So as a guard, or I suppose as anybody, you didn't want to come across this stuff, I mean, the light bulb,
What did they do with the light bulb?
Okay, so there's the old, that movie, The Longest Yard.
Right.
The newer version of it. Basically, it's to kill. So what they would do is they would inject fuel into it and put it in the light, but not quite connect it. So when that inmate came in and his light wasn't working, he'd tap it, screw it in, and boom. It was an explosive device. This particular one was found before it was used. So yeah, so that's a real McCoy right there. And then the concrete shoes, everybody thinks it basically was made for escaped prisoners, so they couldn't escape. The other story is the brick kiln yard was very hot, and it would melt their shoes.
Oh.
So I'm not sure which of the stories are correct, but those are real. So you couldn't really escape from them. They're like 40 pounds.
And what we're looking at here, just so everybody has an idea of what we're talking about. This display is a nice size display, but I always thought of prison shanks as being more like a shish kebab skewer.
Yeah.
And so there's several of those kind there that have tape wrapped around them for a handle for possibly stabbing somebody. Mm-hmm. But then we get into actual knives, and some of these knives are actually kind of cool looking as far as being homemade, just kind of garbage things. But we got some here with blades that are 12 inches long, 14 inches long, and handles on them. All of them look like they have pretty decent sharp edges. We have
this one here.
What is that?
Everybody asks me what that is. Basically what that is, it's a special handle on that they put the knife on. And basically you'd walk by somebody and you would have it here and you would thrust it up, but the blood would stop it from slipping out of their hand. You see, the blood, when it hit, in most shanks, it gets slippery. This would have prevented the, slipping out of his hand, and he'd be able to walk on it. It's pretty nasty.
And the handle with this looks like a goalpost, a football goalpost. It's probably 4 or 6 inches wide, and then has the shank coming down out of the bottom. And what are these pliers? There's a pair of pliers here with longer handles lashed to it, like you would use maybe for leverage, or
trying to cut through a fence.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Handmade.
Yep. And a pair of nunchucks, homemade nunchucks. You got brass knuckles. And what are these plumbing pipes that you've got a plumbing pipe that kind of comes on down? Looks like it'd be more used for smoking something than a weapon. But
what do you call them? Like a welder's, because they would make their own welding devices.
Okay.
So that they could cut through the bars.
A cutting torch.
Yeah, that's it.
A homemade cutting torch. What would they use for fuel?
They would sneak it from one of the factories. They were very ingenious.
They would take like a propane bottle or something? Wow.
Isn't that cool?
This just has some really neat stuff in it.
The neatest thing, though, is don't read that.
Okay, I'm not going to read that.
So it's a rope. Okay, and it's supposed to hold a 165, 169-pound man.
Okay.
But guess what it's made out of?
Sheets?
No. Nope. Toilet paper.
Toilet paper.
Toilet paper.
That explains the shortage.
Well, no, actually, all I can say is it just goes to show you how strong prison toilet paper is, because it's definitely not Charmin. There's no soft landing on that one.
And we're talking about a rope that's braided with toilet paper that's only a 3/8 inch rope. I don't know if that's even a 1/2 inch rope.
No, this is just part of the rope that he was making to try and scale the wall.
And it would hold 160 pounds.
Yeah.
That's just unbelievable that you can weave toilet paper together to do
toilet
paper. Especially if it had any perforations in it.
Hopefully that thicker kind.
But toilet paper is actually a very dangerous weapon.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, keep explaining.
Well, I don't want to give people ideas, but there's certain ways that they mold the toilet paper and it becomes sharp and really strong. Yeah. And it can do some damage.
Wow.
Amazing, huh?
I never would have been scared if somebody said, I'm going to come kill you with a roll of toilet paper.
Now you know. Now you know.
Never would have happened.
Yeah.
Wow, this display is just, you could stand here and look at this stuff for a long period of time because it's just so cool.
Well, and people always think, they see it in the movies where inmates cut out books and stuff. Well, yes, they did. They did do it. A lot of the times it was the Bibles.
Right.
As you can see here. This is all drugs.
Drugs. Yep.
So,
we see several drugs in there.
It's just one of those things.
And what did they do with the Clorox cleanser?
I think that was just an evidence part. It was kind of like sometimes they use them as weapons, like to make explosives
Okay.
or to throw in your eyes, stuff like that. You know, anything that they could get their hands on, they could revamp to use as a weapon. I mean, in prison, it's everyone for themselves.
Right.
So you have to be ingenious about how you know,
Wow.
I know, right?
This is just way cool.
So now you have to tell the guard where you're going, because otherwise you'll, you know.
We're
No,
going
just
with
kidding.
her because she's leading. We have no idea where we're going. Sorry about that, Mr. Guard.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the prison is like, you know, I mean, it's very, very old. And like I said to you in the beginning, you know, it is not state or federally funded like a lot of these prisons are.
Uh-huh.
This is purely a prison that was taken over by a foundation, and we rely on tourism and different people to help us keep this open and repairs, you know, and you also, you know, we try to get grants and stuff, you know, so the more support we get from the public, the more we can keep this open as a history for everybody.
And you know, the prices here, and I haven't been here for probably about 8 years. That was when I came through here last. I think it was $15 a person. Is it still $15?
So what it is, it's $15 a person unless you qualify for the discounts. And that's like if you're a law enforcement, government employee, senior citizen, a AAA.
Right.
And then that goes down to 12.
Okay.
Okay. And kids 9 and under are free.
Okay.
But the nice thing about it is that gets you to all the museums.
That's what I was going to say.
And it also gets you to come back one more time within that year frame.
For a year?
Yeah. So if you were to be here
Wow.
and you missed something, you could come back with, as long as you have your receipt ticket and finish off your tour. There's not many.
You get what, 5 museums?
Yep.
5 museums for $15
Yep.
for a full year.
Yep.
Where else can you get a deal like that? I mean, yeah, it might, if you got a family of 4, it's going to cost you $60.
Right.
But you could easily spend 2-3 days here in
Yep,
Deer Lodge
absolutely.
just looking at museums.
And you can also become a member. And, you know, family memberships, you know, a lot of people will do that. And you can come in at any time you want. And it also gets you a discount in the gift shop.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Scale?
So this is actually the replica of what George Rock and William Hayes, the 2 inmates that were killed inside prison, the only 2. And it's called a jerk-up gallows. And basically what it is the weight has to be heavier than the person you're hanging. And this is how they were executed. And the Warden Conley, he basically wanted revenge for his killing of his best friend. Warden Conley almost died. He was stabbed 108 times.
Ooh, how do you survive that one?
He survived it, but his deputy didn't. Anyway, it actually took 15 minutes for the people
So
die
all it did
and
was
hang
strangle them to death.
pretty much.
And
yeah.
what we're looking at here as far as a gallows is it would look like your normal hangman's apparatus.
Yep.
It has the noose coming down. It has pulleys coming across the top, and it's got a weight sitting
This is
on a
just a
platform
replica.
on the back. And so I'm sure that what they must have done is put the neck on in and left them standing on the ground and then pushed the weight off the back, and that's what
Right.
raised them up and strangled them.
Pretty much. That's exactly
There
how it
wasn't
happened.
any neck breaking going on with this. This was
It
just
was supposed to.
Oh,
It was
was it?
supposed to. I mean, that's what's supposed to happen. But in these 2 cases, it didn't.
Oh, it did.
Okay,
Wow.
it strangled him. But also in those days, in the 1900s, a hanging was a family event. So you would get gilded invitations, silver or gold gilded invitations to come to the hanging. And as you can see on the photograph, you can see some of the people sitting up on the wall.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically this is this area, this hole behind you wasn't here at that time. So the wall actually went that way.
Okay.
As you can see the difference in the sandstones.
Right.
Okay, so the public would come in here and have a picnic.
Really? And the family of the victim, or the family of the person getting executed?
No, everybody, the public.
The public.
Just like, you know, hey, it's a family event.
We're having an afternoon
Yeah.
hanging, and everybody come down and
Yep.
watch.
Pretty much.
Okay.
I mean, that's what entertainment was in those days.
Well, I guess it probably was.
Yeah. But they were the only 2 inmates ever to be hanged inside, a legal hanging inside. I mean, there was a lot of other deaths in here, suicides, murders.
And how many people died in here?
I could not give you that count number. A lot of the records were lost, but you have to take into consideration pandemics like we're going through right now. Only it was the Spanish flu.
In 1918?
Yep. And the inmates that got that, they were taken to the top levels in the cell block, and that's where they died. There was no hospitals.
Right.
Not, for the prison. That's the only way they could.
And the doctor's office in there looked pretty dang primitive.
Yeah, it was kind of, like I said, prison, it's everyone for themselves, basically. And then you have, excuse me, as we come along, at the base of one tower of the cell block, you have East Siberia. I always call this the luxury version of Siberia. There's a couple of cells in there, and it's more for isolation, protective witness. They would house people in here who may have been going crazy and waiting to go to Warm Springs, the mental institute.
And Warm Springs only, what, 10 miles?
7 miles.
7 miles. And that's still the state mental institution, correct?
It is.
Yes.
It is. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is, it's a small area.
It is a small area.
Well, actually, you go in there, and it wasn't until later that they put the plumbing in. But like I said, originally there was no electrical plumbing.
And you could house, what, two prisoners in here?
Yeah, they would put 2 prisoners in here.
And this is just a concrete dungeon with big heavy metal doors, a rat on a bed, and a couple of cots that are probably old cotton cots sitting on a concrete slab.
Yep.
And then you have the bathroom just right. This must have been a common bathroom?
No, originally it was honey buckets.
Oh, okay.
Which is just the male bucket in there for,
right.
for
taking care of things.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is the nicer version. When you look out the window, this is what you would see. You may have come out here for a little bit of exercise, but not much.
And how long did these prisoners usually live in these facilities? I mean, did they make it to 70 years old, or did most of them die by, 10 years after they were admitted?
Well, it's really funny because I'm actually researching some archives and putting together stuff. And when you look at the sentencing back in, when it first started, you might have been sentenced to 20 years for murder in the first degree. But when you look, they paroled you less than a year and a half later.
Really?
It's really weird. It's the whole system was very different. And even now, looking at the 70s, you can see people who were sentenced to a year and a half, and they'd be out in 3 months.
Huh.
And they had the good time behavior and all that stuff, which I don't think I'm not sure, but I don't think they have that now.
I'm wondering if that had something to do with economics, where prison's now a money-making endeavor, or the prison complex, I guess, prison industrial complex, or whatever they call it, versus we just can't afford to keep this guy here.
Right. So now what you're looking at, you're going to enter West Siberia.
Okay.
And this was a little more severe. It also, believe it or not, it faces north. So the wind would just howl through here. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a little bit dark and dungeony in here.
Right?
Yeah. And you even have a rat man in here sitting on one of the concrete slabs where the bed's supposed to go. We're talking a cell here that is probably only 5 foot wide and 6 foot long.
Yeah, I mean,
it is nothing as far as a place to have to spend time. How often would they let them out to exercise?
That little exercise area out there, maybe an hour or so.
A day.
Yeah.
So they spent 23 hours of the day inside of a dark, very small room.
And this actually, where you were standing, that cell right there, is actually where Jerry Miles, the leader of the 59 riot, was put in here in February of 1959. And that's where he came up with the plan for the riot in April 59.
He was just given way too much time to think and no place to relieve any stress.
Right. That piece of art, the rat, you call it, that actually is a depiction of Jerry Miles. That's his head.
Okay.
Well, not his real head, but his, a thing of his head on a rat's body. And they say he didn't like rats and he didn't like snitches.
Okay.
So it's kind of a double insult there for Jerry Miles. Now, this particular area for paranormal can get a little freaky in here.
Huh.
So, yeah. Okay, so as you get around here, now you come around West Siberia, in the same place that you were, only this is the Death Tower. And if you look like right above you, you can see where that bazooka hit.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
But it may not look as severe now, but in 1959, this was a mess when that hit.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Okay. So it's kind of like, that's where they died. And it's like 72 feet up.
Yeah, I was going to say this tower is really tall.
Yeah.
And you can definitely see the bricks are kind of layered in for the window or whatever. And you can see where that bazooka hit. The bars are bent. And
Yep.
I don't even know how they really, where did they shoot it from?
From
Because
up on that tower.
Oh, from the, okay. I was
So
going to say, because getting the trajectory to hit there would have been kind of rough.
sorry, I didn't think it was going to be in the way. So basically, when the riot was underway and now they were going to try and get it stopped. So what they did was there was a trooper up on the wall here, and he was shooting this way into the building to distract them.
Okay.
Okay, you might be able to see still some of the bullet riddles at that top. Do you see?
Okay,
up there? Okay, so then the National Guard was called in, and the guy was up here, and point of fact, he missed one. It went high.
Uh-huh.
And you can see that as we cross the yard, you'll be able to see that. And then that one hit. And it was more of a stun grenade, and so you can imagine what it was like, dust and dirt and, people, total chaos. But when they realized they weren't going to get out of it alive, that's when they did the murder-suicide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we're talking that the guard was shooting from the west here.
Yep.
And he was shooting into the west to distract, and then the National Guard would have been in the southwest tower of the courtyard. Yep. And this tower that you're talking about is the second one in from the southwest again. Right. So, yeah.
Now, the other thing interesting about this tower is I found during the research that when tuberculosis was a big thing here,
right,
they would house them in here.
Oh, really?
And some didn't make it, It was kind of like one of those things where, if you were taken through the door, everyone knew you weren't coming back out.
Right.
And that was in the back in the day. But yeah, you would have gone up there, and we only allow the paranormal tours where you can actually go up into the tower.
Okay.
And a lot of people, like, they might not get anything, but then other people get things, and they feel really sick and dizzy. Some people get like shooting pains in their head, for no reason. So it's all like a residual.
And this is part of your paranormal. What's that paranormal tour cost?
It's $50 a person.
50?
50.
$50.
And what you get is you get to be here all night. And then once we're done with you, as far as trying to stir everything up and make contact and everything, then we cut you loose in your own groups, and you can go and explore your own at night.
Really?
As long as you
got free reign of the prison, basically.
You do, as long as you're not allowed to go off by yourself, because it is dangerous, and especially at night, because it's pitch black. There are no lights. So you always have a buddy system, and we're always here. So if people need us, we're still here. But yeah, you get to go do your own investigations.
And you get to go to lots of places in the prison where nobody else gets to go.
Normally, yes.
Wow.
Yes. That's what's so pretty cool.
50. If you're into that type of thing, $50 is cheap.
But even if you're not, a lot of people, they may not be totally into the paranormal, but just being here at nighttime, this whole place takes on a different persona completely.
I'll bet it does.
And it's really cool to explore it at night. It's just different at night.
I would assume.
Yeah. Oh, dear Lord.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, we're good. Okay, now we're here we're at a courtyard.
Yeah, I'm doing a
podcast. What I'm seeing over here is a urinal, an outside urinal that is just kind of a big tube, or at least I'm assuming that's a urinal. No?
So, yes,
it looks like a bar urinal.
So basically, when they're out in the yard, they didn't go into the cells to use the bathroom. Right. So yes, that is a urinal. but it's right next to the drinking fountain.
Well, but our prison toilets, a lot of the prison toilets have the drinking fountain sticking right up the backside. I should not admit, I did spend a night or two in jail. And it was one of those things that sitting on the pot and turning around and getting a drink out of the tank filler was not an experience that anybody ought to have.
No, I know. No thanks. You can keep that.
No, I should explain too. This was not for any type of a real crime.
Sure.
They did not send me a notice to appear, and the cop arrested me for failure to appear in court. And he did it on a Friday. And I wasn't able to get to see the judge until
Monday.
And like I said, when I went to see the judge, I said, show me the paper that you sent, because I don't think I ever got it. And I know I never got it. And I never did get it. But I did end up in jail for failure to appear on a traffic violation. So that's the kind of hardened criminal that's doing this podcast.
But you think about that in the old days, okay? You would come to prison, not jail.
Right.
Jail and prisons are different. You would have come to prison for a year for stealing a loaf of bread.
Wow.
Okay, and that's prison, not jails.
And that could be a death sentence with the way that this prison's set up, you know, with the things that we're seeing.
Pretty much. Right, we're gonna go. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna take you over to Max, because then we're gonna come back, because we're gonna come back in here and then down.
Okay.
And then so maximum.
And was this a big courtyard for exercising and stuff?
Not originally.
Okay. Again, here we're looking at probably a 300-yard by 100-yard wide grassy area. And she's going to explain what we're doing here.
Originally, all along that wall were other buildings.
Okay.
Okay. And this was a produce yard. So they would grow their own peas, lettuce, tomatoes, and it would serve the entire prison and sometimes the public outside. I mean, they had a slaughterhouse as well where they would do their own beef and stuff like that. Okay. So that's what I'm saying about totally self-sufficient in here. It paid for itself.
Right.
You know?
Wow. And I'll bet that just to be out here in the sun picking weeds was much better than sitting in your cell. So they probably had people just chomping at the bit, so to speak.
The Warden Conley was a warden that said idle hands is the devil's work.
Okay.
So he believed that everybody should have a job. And so that's what they would do. They would put everybody to work. The prisoners here built the roads in Sealy Lake. It's like 500 miles of roads in Montana. They built a lot of the houses in town. They had the huge ranch out there that they worked with the cattle and whatever else they had out there. So this was like its own little city.
And the thing that's kind of cool about that is, I guess that you would have, the mosquitoes are really bad. You would have some sort of skill maybe when you left prison to be able to actually work on the outside.
Well, you think about it. When you look around you here, okay? Look at the construction of these cells and the wall and all the different little nooks and crannies.
And designs. And,
okay? It was all done by inmates, unskilled inmates.
Good. Yeah.
But it shows you how proud.
They were skilled.
Yeah, but it's just they look how proud.
Right.
I mean, they took pride in this, you know. And I always say, when you look at this building, there's your cell house, 1912. Then you got 1931.
Yeah.
Look at the difference.
Yeah, one of them's nice brick, lots of architecture and stuff. The other one's just a concrete slab. Yeah. And the other place. And so did they quit the work parties after Conley, or?
No, well, yeah. When he left in 1921, he took everything with him because the state didn't realize that he owned a lot of this stuff himself.
Oh.
So that was kind of like the start of the downfall. And then when the cell block was destroyed, they moved all the inmates over there into here. So now you've got overcrowding is starting. And so the prison, and it's getting older and, you know, it's not up to date and people are complaining. And that's obviously why they have riots and stuff.
Okay.
To try and get the better conditions. I mean, they turned the original mess hall into like a dormitory with bunk beds. Yeah. So.
Wow.
So now what you're entering is, now it's currently maximum security, but originally it was a women's prison.
Oh, okay.
Which is behind its own little wall.
Yes. We go through the wall that surrounds the prison, And now we're coming back into a whole different area. Okay.
Yep.
Again, it has the wall all the way around it. It's got a wooden guard tower in the corner versus the big rock ones.
Yep.
These walls here are concrete versus stone. And the building, again, is just basically a concrete building, it looks like.
Now, when it was a women's prison, though, if you look at the architect, you'll see where the windows used to be.
Oh, okay. And
As
then
a
they
woman's.
block those back in for maximum security.
So in a women's prison, it was more dormitory style. So it was like bed dresser, no cells. Okay. And the matron used to live here as well.
Okay.
When they finally got a female matron. But then, and this little shack right here is the visitors.
Oh.
Which is not, you know, your visits in winter were probably really short because there's no heat.
Wow.
There's no heat. And in here, there was no heat or
For
electric.
the women either.
And no. And it was all done by honey buckets, but it was later, they closed it down and then reopened it for a couple of years, and they threw in a couple of toilets in here. But majority of the time, it was just honey buckets.
Wow.
So let's go in. And so when it now became in 59, it became maximum security. So they mortared everything up.
Okay.
So when you look, so if I was, I'll show you really quickly. Imagine with no electric, that's what it was like.
Wow. And
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is dark in here.
Yeah.
And this is what they lived in most of the time.
Yep.
Did they get out in the courtyard more
Yeah,
than what the men did, or
The women had their own area here.
but were they able to get out
Yes.
for more than an hour a day, or were they
Yes.
pretty much stuck
Yeah,
in here?
no. This was like this particular thing for women was like the men's cell block where they could get out.
And again,
Eventually.
well, this is maximum security again. You said it was more dorm style when the women were
Yeah,
here.
if you go around the corner, I'll show you kind of how it was. Walking into those doors will hurt.
And these cells for the maximum security are 8 by 10, I'd say. About that. And they've all got doors on all the cells now, whereas before she was saying it was a little bit more open.
So these are just artifacts to show you.
Right.
So in the women's dormitory, it would be a bed and a dresser.
But an actual bed, not a concrete
Yeah.
slab.
Yeah, so that's what it would be like, the old hospital beds,
Huh.
you know. And then you'd have your little jug and bowl to
Right,
wash
to
in
wash.
and everything. So it was a little more,
A dry sink, I think they call them. Is that
yeah,
not right?
I can't remember. Oh, I do know it's a bedpan.
Right. Yeah, one of those.
So then when they turned it into maximum security, that's what they did. They made them into cells,
Okay.
okay? And with the cells, you'll see, so this particular cell had no plumbing, so this is what it would be like, okay? And so they would have these doors on here, and they would shut you in. And if you were noisy or you're not behaving in that, then they would shut this door.
Oh, it's got double doors.
So when you so you can see how dark it is there now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that would be horrible.
Yeah, we're talking a bar door like what you normally see on a prison door. And then there's this other heavy, is this wood or is
It's
it?
a wood door.
It's a solid wood
But it
door.
muffles. It
And
muffles the
it's
sound.
just got the little trap door for shoving food through there. There is no light in these cells whatsoever. And when they close that big door, it would be dark. So
Yes.
I'm assuming you were only noisy once.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, if
I'm
it were
sure
me,
they-
I'd only be noisy once. Because I would not want to have, but was there lights in here when it was maximum security, like in the lobby?
No.
So it was
Till
it was
later,
dark
way
and then-
later. Yeah.
And you know, it's kind of interesting. I've read different things that they say that just being in the dark like that can drive a person
Absolutely.
absolutely nuts.
Yeah, it can.
Yeah.
Well, so what you're looking at, some of the information in here, when you're in here, is some of the females, how the females started, and then all the way down to present day where the female prison is in Billings, Montana now.
Oh, okay. I know where that's
Okay.
at. Yes.
So they basically were in here first. Then when they had to turn it into maximum security, they took them across the street and put them in the warden's garage. Then they moved them over into the Powell County Museum basement or at top. And then they went to Warm Springs. And then finally to Billings.
Wow.
Yeah, so they would
So
transfer.
they kind of moved them all over the place.
Right.
The warden's garage.
His house is across the street. Or was across the
And
street.
how big of a garage was it?
It was upstairs. upstairs in there. It's pretty big.
Huh.
Pretty big. But yeah, I was right. It's Kyle the cat.
Kyle the cat.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
You got your name
yeah.
right.
And then of course the guards, the guards themselves were pretty much prisoners, as you can see,
Yeah, the guard station here is all
Pretty
behind
much like a
bars.
prison.
It's a 10 by 10 room, maybe.
Right?
Yeah.
So they had punishment cells in here besides these cells.
Oh, this wasn't enough punishment.
Yeah, no, not for some. Oh, all these people opening these doors here. So they would take you down to the back.
Okay.
And then they had these 2 cells. And the beds are not supposed to be in there. Okay. But these are called slide bar cells.
Okay.
So for anybody who was like trying to commit suicide or was just totally unruly, they would bring them in here and you'd be handcuffed to the slide bar.
And this slide bar that she's talking about is a bar that's about 6 foot long and put on an angle starting at about 5 foot high and going down to about 2 foot off the ground.
You could stand up, you could sit. It would be hard laying down, but you'd be
And
put
you were
in there.
handcuffed the whole time.
Yeah.
And handcuffs don't feel good.
No, and they don't forget they probably were the heavy iron ones
Right.
in comparison to today's one.
Wow.
So there's 2 of those types of cells. And then, if that wasn't enough, you would then be put into the black box.
Oh.
So there would have been a door on here, but it's basically a concrete room, and that's it.
Basically a concrete room. No, this is definitely a concrete room. There is no basically about this other than there is not a single thing in there.
You would have a wool blanket, your underwear, and a honey bucket. That's it.
And the door here was bar, but then they welded a solid steel plate that's about 1/4 inch thick with a great big hole in it.
That would have been
It must
covered.
be like 2 inches wide by 6 inches long.
That would have had a door slapped on here, so they would,
so they
they would
could
shut
make it
it.
completely dark in here.
Oh yeah. There was no lights in here.
Talk
This-
about driving a person from crazy to insane.
You'd be put in here for 10 days. You would be bread and water 3 times a day. Every 3rd day you would be given a kind of a hot meal. After 10 days they would bring you out. They would look at you physically. If you were okay, they could throw you back in there. Mentally they didn't care because that was the whole point. The whole point is to break your spirit, which it did.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
Because within 1 day, you have no concept of what time, day, night, you have how many hours you've been in there. You'd lost it completely. Yeah.
Wow. And how much bread did you get and how much water did you get? Just enough to sustain you? Or?
Yeah, I probably would say it would be a cup of water and maybe a slice or like a chunk, because in the old days it'd be like chunk bread.
A cup of water and a chunk of a cup of water and a chunk. So you were only getting 3 cups of water a day?
It's prison. It's not a hotel.
No, I understand, but dehydration is definitely an issue.
In the old, you got to remember in the old days, prisons were run differently to what they are now.
Right. Well, yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
When you came through the prison door into prison, your life as you knew it stopped.
Right.
You didn't know what you didn't know what was going to happen to you. And there were really a lot of rules and regulations like they were today. You look at a guard the wrong way.
We had no human rights.
That's right. You didn't have, no, you had nothing. You had no rights. You literally lost your rights when you came to prison. But saying that, there wasn't too many repeat offenders.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, I'm sure that they didn't want to come back.
No. But they learned, in the early days, they learned a skill. They even the females, the matrons, taught them how to sew, how to cook, how to clean, which they didn't have on the outside.
Right.
So it was good, and they learned something. So it was a prison. It was, I'm sure.
Well, and life was tougher back then too. I mean,
was.
you didn't have electricity, so you didn't expect electricity when you came here.
Nope.
But
you had the, like the wool shirts and stuff.
right.
But people were a lot hardier in those days.
Oh,
Like
definitely.
I said.
And what about temperature? Did these places get these cells get unbearably hot in the summer when it's 100 degrees out?
Yep. And
being
very
concrete,
cold.
I thought being concrete, maybe they'd stay cooler. But
They do sometimes, but when they did put heat in, all the heat would rise up to the top. So the people on the top were like boiling hot, and the people on the bottom were freezing cold.
wow.
So there was no, because it was all steam pipes.
No insulation and
Yeah.
that type of stuff too. Yes.
Yeah, no, like I said, it wasn't made for luxury. So now you're entering the 1912 cell house.
And we're coming through a door that's a solid steel door, again, 1/4-inch steel, and it's got a really neat bar setup that's rounded with several bars on it. This must have been, it's got a trap door on the backside.
Yep. So when you would come in, this obviously would be closed, and the guard would be here, and you'd have to identify yourself.
Oh,
come through.
wow.
Yep.
Okay, so now we're in the cell block.
200 cells.
200 cells in this one.
No, 200 cells in the entire cell
entire-
block. So you have to remember, it used to be 1 man to a cell.
Okay.
Then it became 2 men to a cell. So overcrowding.
And this is probably 75 yards long, I would say, and
I don't know the
and
exact
4
measurements.
stories high. There's 1, 2, 3. There's 4 tiers. Is there cells on the very top? I can't tell.
No, the very top, the guards could stand up there.
Okay.
So
So you've got 3 tiers of,
Yep.
of cells.
And basically you would have, like I said, these are the beds that they would sleep in,
And these are steel beds
attached to the
attached to the wall. You've got bunk bed style,
Mm-hmm.
upper and lower. You got a little porcelain sink, a little porcelain stool, and
Yep.
a little cabinet. It looks
Yep.
like. Do all of them have the little cabinets?
They would have, when it was operational, they would have. And the fact is, it's all metal. And like I said, when you look at the size, imagine 2 men.
Stuck in there 23 hours a day.
No, I don't think they were in here unless you had an infraction. And when I say infraction, if you notice, there's a white,
Right.
okay?
There's a white
So-
stripe on the bar door.
Yeah. So if you were shaving, you would have to put your razor on here before you'd be let out.
Okay.
If you didn't, you weren't let out. It's the same as if you were clean shaven. If you weren't clean shaven and you were going to mess, the hall to go eat, and you weren't clean shaven, you'd be sent back and you'd be given a sandwich.
Really?
Now, originally when this was open, it was the, I can't think what it's called, silent system. Aubrey system, I think it's called, where it's completely no talking.
Really?
Yeah, just like it was in Alcatraz. Yeah.
And so you couldn't talk in these cells?
Nope, they weren't allowed to talk. It was all silent system.
And how long did that go on for?
I must have gone on for a while, and then obviously when it started getting overcrowded, it was a hard thing to enforce. But they had to keep the noise level very, very.
Well, yeah, this is just us talking here is very ringy. So if you were carrying on a conversation, there was no private conversation.
And up behind you is the catwalk where it goes all the way around the inside,
Okay.
and that's where the guards would watch everything. They'd walk. I know, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the guards are walking up there, probably 12 feet high is where that catwalk goes all the way. Well, the catwalk goes on this side.
No, it goes all the way around. All the way around. Yeah, and it's kind of like imagine 400 men in here.
Oh, I can't even imagine 400 men in here.
And so in the wintertime, the ones on the lower level would have a blanket. They were allowed to put a blanket down here to stop the cold from coming through. Now, the other thing
and
is...
it had to have stunk in here. I mean, all of them are defecating and
Yes.
BO and...
And you didn't get to shower every day.
Yeah,
So-
this place had to have just reeked.
Behind you is a display, and it's so strange because schools were being taught this here last year and this year. Sedition, the speaking against your government.
Uh-huh.
So what you see here is 41 people, and all of them but one are men,
Uh-huh.
and these guys were actually in here.
For
in here,
sedition.
for sedition.
And what was considered speaking against your government?
So, First World War, a lot of the immigrants in that were fighting against their mother countries.
Okay.
But they didn't agree with the government. And so what you see here, these large pieces of writing, those are actually from their sentencing documents.
Okay,
this is what they said.
We've got one here that says, I would sooner fight for the Kaiser than I would for the United States. F the United States and F the flag. I mean it.
Yeah. And for that,
so he was in prison.
For that, he was in prison 2 to 4 years.
And this man's name was Pete Urvick.
Yeah.
Pete Urvick.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's go to another one. Lack of specificity would have been grounds for successful appeal. See Peter Wolf's case in Beaverhead County.
And he's down there. So a lot of them tried to fight it. So actually how it started was with this guy.
Okay.
And he is in Butte. He's buried in Butte, and he's
Frank
a union.
Little.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he spoke against all the hardships in the mining companies and everything. And he tried to rally people together. Okay. And he spoke against the government.
Well, I've been to the museum there in Butte, and they have a building that is set up for the Socialist Party of whatever. And so that must have been where he was at? Okay.
But he actually didn't come from Montana. He came from another state. Okay.
Right.
But he came in here. He really did try. He was in a boarding house, and they ran in. That these people were never caught. They grabbed him out of the boarding house in his underwear. They tied him to the back of a car, dragged him through the cobblestones of streets in Butte when it was. Then they hanged him on the trestle bridge just outside of Butte, and this note was pinned to his thigh.
Others take notice. First and last warning. 3777.
Yeah, that's actually the Highway Patrol logo now. But what it basically is you speak against anybody, like the Anaconda Mining Company and stuff like that, this is what's going to happen to you. And then as it goes on, you can see people were sending these out, and these were posted in newspapers,
And this
watch
says,
out.
Don't talk. The web is spinning for you. The web. Hey, we got a web now.
Right.
Is spun for you with invisible threads. Keep out of it. Help to destroy it. Stop, think. Ask yourself if what you were about to say might help the enemy. Spies are listening.
And that's within the newspapers in the United States.
Wow. Well, see, now we just did a podcast at the Heart Mountain Relocation Camp in Powell, Wyoming, which is where they rounded up all the, not all, a lot of the Japanese off of the West Coast and sent them to the internment camp. And it's a very interesting podcast also. If you get a chance, maybe take a listen to that one. Yeah. But
all of these,
I
mean, when you go, I think the saddest one is this guy.
Okay, and
he's the only one that actually kept a diary of every day that he was in here, and his family has the diary. But he was a hardworking man, and he really wasn't he was just speaking his mind. You know,
his name is Herman Bosch.
And he was put in prison, and
4 to 8 years.
Yeah, his young son, his pride and joy, got sick and died, and the family requested to let him out to come to the funeral, and they would even pay for the guard to be with him. The warden said no. At the time his little son was being buried, they were making him dig a 6-foot ditch.
Really?
It's kind of
and what did he do that was so bad? Let's see. He said, I do not care anything about the red, white, and blue. I won't do anything voluntarily to aid this war. I don't care who wins this war. I would rather see Germany win than England or France. I am not prepared to say whether or not Germany is in the right. We should never have entered this war, and this war should be stopped immediately and peace declared. We should stop sending ships with supplies and ammunition to our soldiers. As far as I'm concerned, I do not care if the Third Liberty loan is a success or failure. So basically what he's saying is the United States should not be involved in World War II.
Right. The World War One.
Or World War One.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because this is 1918.
And basically what they're saying is the fat cats were getting richer off the poor man's backs.
Yes.
That's what it was.
That does not seem seditious to me
No, I
at
know.
all.
But one little comment against the government would have you ended up in prison. And you would have ended up in here?
in this prison. And we're talking 4 to 8 years.
Yeah. This particular guy, or should I say, this one here, this is a husband and wife team.
Oh, okay.
And ironically enough, she was a postmistress.
Okay.
It's,
And this we're talking about W.K. Smith and Janet Smith.
yep.
And they were both sentenced in Custer County, 10 to 20 years for him, 5 to 10 years for her. And this is 1918 again.
Yep.
And which one said the better thing?
The nastier thing.
The nastier thing. Okay, this is her. She advocated turning the stock into the crops to prevent helping the government and killing all the cripples, insane, and convicts in order to save food instead of making all the food restrictions. That the Red Cross was a fake, and while she didn't mind helping the Belgians with the relief work, the trouble was the damn soldiers would get it.
So basically what she was saying is all the livestock, just let them loose. Sorry, there's people in here. All the livestock, turn it into the crops, let the livestock eat it. They just didn't, basically they didn't believe in helping the soldiers.
Wow.
So yeah, simple thing. But the end story to all that is in 2006, Governor Brian Schweitzer, posthumously pardoned every one of these.
Well, good. Did he give them their 4 to 8 years back?
No, they were all dead by then. But the families themselves turned up. They turned up for the ceremony. It was a huge ceremony in Helena. So they should never have been put in prison.
Right.
It was basically a violation of the First Amendment.
Well, yeah, speaking their mind. And,
Yep.
and, I guess that we take that for granted nowadays, too. Not that I'm in favor of the protest stuff that's going on right now.
No.
By any stretch of the imagination. There's no reason people should be doing violence.
But here's the funny thing.
But I'm all for civil disobedience. Rosa Parks has always been one of my heroes.
Right. But do you see what I mean? And, if those laws were still on the books now,
Right. Oh,
the outside prisons would become prisons, and all those people that didn't commit crimes would be inside the prison.
Right.
Because there wouldn't be enough room.
yeah.
So, okay, during the 59 riot, third tier, last two cells, that's where they took the hostages, about 22 of them, and they put 11 in each cell, and they were held for 36 hours.
Ooh. 11 in each cell.
Right.
They weren't sleeping much.
Nope.
They were
And
all standing because there's not room for a person to lay down if there's 11
And
people
some of
in
them
there.
were injured, But the lieutenant that was captured, he basically said, and I'm just going on what I was told.
Right.
Obviously, I wasn't there, but he basically was afraid that if they did do a rescue and all the bullets would come flying, that they would be killed. So he put the mattresses up against the cell doors. When they peeked out 24 hours later, the convicts had put gasoline tanks right outside. And so basically what they were going to do is they were going to hang the hostages in the windows on the other side so the public could see it and burn them alive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
now
those
what
mattresses
What are
would-
these funnels at the end of these runs?
Water trough.
Water trough?
Yeah. It's basically, if you can see, it's just basically letting the water, if they come out to get fresh water.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And as you can see, this particular area here was the original showers.
Okay.
Only 3 heads. So you basically soaped up or got wet, soaped up, rinsed off.
Okay. And we've got a drain that's kind of got a little bit of a divot going down into this area that's probably, 20 foot long with 3 shower heads. So, and so they just kind of ran them through fast because you got 3 shower heads to take care of 200 men.
400.
Well, 400.
Yeah. And that's when overcrowding, obviously,
Right.
So as you come around the corner on the east side and you're going to look up, you will see two figures standing on one side and one figure standing on the other.
Okay.
In that exact spot right there is when it's the first few seconds of the 59 riot.
Okay.
This is how it happened. So what happened was the guy that's holding the kind of flame,
Right.
and then you got the other guy holding the
feather.
fuel.
Oh, fuel.
Yeah. Okay, so basically the way it works is the shorter mannequin there was Jerry Miles. The taller one was Lee Smart.
Okay.
And they had that fuel he had tossed on the guard,
Okay.
covered him in fuel, and then they threatened to set him alight if they didn't hand over the keys. You can see the keys hanging.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so then another inmate, he ran down there. He made across, he like monkey bars across there, ran up here, grabbed the keys, went down, got the weapons, and the riot was on.
Oh boy.
So this is like literally the first few seconds of the riot.
Okay. And
Yeah.
this right here is where it started. Oh, where it all started.
Right
here.
there.
Right there.
Right there.
Wow.
We researched the cells that they were in. Yeah. Come on in. How are you guys? And as you can see how it was when it was just one person's cell.
Right.
They've taken down the upper bunk.
And that
just to
was
show you.
1960s. You said is when they started double.
No, 59 when
59 is when they started
when
double. Okay.
the earthquake happened and they had to throw
And what was Smart in for? You said that
murder.
he was in for murder.
Smart
so
was
he
in
didn't
for-
care.
No, he was. If you look into his eyes on his picture, you can see that he was a man that was troubled so
Uh-huh.
bad.
But he was only, you said 19.
He was 19.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
19 years old. And then, like Lee Smart, he was a career criminal. He all his life.
You said
From a
Smart.
kid.
Smart was a kid one.
The kid, and then Jerry Miles.
Miles. I
Yeah,
couldn't
always
remember
get
his
the
last.
two.
Yeah, no, we're all good. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to.
It's Jerry Miles and Lee Smart.
Right. Okay. So Miles was just a petty criminal.
Yeah, but he was a career criminal. He was always in and out of facilities, juvenile facilities, all the way into prison.
He must have really been troubled to have wanted to be at Alcatraz and places like this and not reforming his ways and still
Here,
getting to come back.
Well, here, he was the con boss. He was the head here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he was a short little fat guy, but he was intimidating to a lot of people apparently.
Huh.
Up in the head.
Not quite mentally stable.
Yeah,
and,
no.
and here we got a prisoner hanging out in this cell. Now he's not clean shaven, so that means he's eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every day.
Probably.
Poor guy.
That's what do we call him? I think we call him Joe. Scares the living bejeebus out of everybody at nighttime. I'll tell you that.
I'll bet he does. But he's wearing his prison stripes and a
Yep.
pair of boots and just sitting there looking out the cell door.
Right. And then we have the famous number 1 cell.
Okay.
Cell number 1. It housed Turkey Pete. His real name was Paul Eitner. He, you can see the paintings of him. He was a young man and an old man. He was in here for murdering one person in Miles City. And he spent all of his life in here.
Really?
Over the years, he became the turkey caretaker of the prison flock, and he actually sold it to a passerby, brought him back inside, and then over the years, he developed dementia. And this cell was then disconnected, and he was able to come and go wherever he wanted. Everybody loved him. He thought he owned the prison. They even made checks up for him, and he used to write checks for the pay for the guards. And if a family was in trouble, if he found out one of the inmate family, he'd write them a check. But there's no money. It was
Right.
all thing. That book is phenomenal. I read that book in one afternoon.
Really? The Life and Legend of Turkey Pete.
Yes.
The incredible story of Paul G. Eitner.
Paul Eitner, yeah.
Yeah. And it's written by Jim Blodgett and Joy Morris.
Jim Blodgett was a deputy warden here.
Okay.
He was also a pallbearer at his funeral.
Okay.
This inmate was the only inmate ever to have a burial inside the prison, full service, paid for by the state. and he's the only one that has a beautiful headstone up in the cemetery.
Really?
Joy Morris is the niece-in-law of Turkey Pete.
Okay. And what age was he when he came in?
He came in like 1916. He was 47 when he died.
Oh,
and in
okay.
those days, that was a long period of time.
Right.
Yeah. 47 when he came in. I'm sorry. 47 when he came in, and he was 89.
Okay.
Something like that.
So he was in here for 40 years.
Yeah, basically.
Wow.
Yeah. But that book right there, phenomenal book.
Okay, so now I got 2 books.
You got 2 books. And I'm serious because it will give you an understanding of what it was like to be an immigrant in Montana, to commit a crime during the time when Germans and Austrians and that were so hated, okay? And what his life and his thoughts from the train dropping him off in prison to him walking through these doors. And everything is his life.
Wow.
And it is phenomenal. I will tell you that, phenomenal.
Okay, I'm buying a couple books.
So I'm trying to do a thing at the same time here. Okay, so then, this is we have the law enforcement memorial. It's no longer the museum. That's just it's more private for fallen officers of Montana.
Okay.
Okay, and not only police, sheriff, but correctional officers, fish and wildlife, deputy wardens, okay?
And that's right here inside.
Yeah, it's inside the prison. I don't know what is going on with all these doors.
The paranormal.
Yeah, right.
Has
we
been
do.
taking care
We
of it.
do. Lots of it in here. All right. So remember, I said that a lot of the buildings and rooms were redesigned and changed. So what we're walking in here originally was the bakery.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then they changed it to a chapel and then a classroom. You'll notice gun ports in the wall with jagged edges. That is the tunnel.
Okay.
Okay. And that's where the guards could come in without being near the prisoners. And they would put their rifles through there and make sure everybody was paying attention.
And this room is probably 20 by 35, 40 foot long. And it's just got benches. You can see the cross up at the front along with the pulpit altar, whatever you want to call it. And there is a hole in the wall that has jagged steel on it. Right. And where does this tunnel go to? It just comes in from the outside,
no,
so they
it
can
goes all the way around the prison.
All the way around.
But for our purposes, we have closed it off this end and that end because it is dangerous. You don't want people to come.
And so do most of the rooms down here have these holes in the walls for the guards to look through?
They're all on this side. Yeah.
Okay. And did the guards have to? Is this at like chest height? So that they can look in?
When we go through, I'll take you in there.
Okay.
You'll be able to actually see it.
Okay.
Because we're almost through here, so.
Okay.
And then across the road, or across the hallway, this used to be the original kitchen.
Oh, okay.
And then they turned it into showers.
And there's a lot of showers in here. This is much better than the shower facility at the end of the hall.
However, the shower stalls are really tall, and you can't see what's going on. So you see the box up in the corner?
Right.
So a guard had to enter from the tunnel, climb up a ladder, crawl through, sit in the box, and watch everybody shower.
I was going to say, he could only sit in the box because...
Not a duty I would have wanted.
There's not any room up there. That box is only 3.5, 4 feet tall.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And then from the cell block, you would have been taken in to the hall. The foundation cut through the wall so that the public could see what it was like. This is the hole. This is where you got put. And it would have been pitch black.
Okay.
Did I just lose my glasses?
No, I lost mine.
What did I do with mine?
Oh, I don't know. They're in your hands.
Oh.
That's the way I lose stuff. I walk around looking for my phone while I'm talking on it.
Oh, God. All right. Now you
Don't
feel
worry, all of this
stupid.
stuff. My editor loves these things, so he leaves my bloopers in there just for the heck of it. So,
Oh,
Anyway,
good. Because
so
here I've
we will
been
be-
raining back on stuff.
we will be live the way we are.
Okay. So this is the what they call the hole. And so you would have been brought down those stairs. Now you have to remember all of this was pitch black.
Uh-huh.
Okay, there was no lights in here, nothing. Again.
Wow.
And you'd be put in here.
Again,
10 days.
we've got a big steel door again with 1/4-inch plate. It looks like, and there is only a 2-inch hole with wire mesh. That's a heavy wire mesh, and that's all you've got. It's completely dark down here.
And it will always be when you're down here.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you're stuck in here again for 10 days.
Yep.
Bread and water.
Yep. Now, here's what I do. I joke to people when I'm on the paranormal tours, because I don't know if it's true or not, but it just makes interesting.
Right.
And I do it in the daytime too, just to get a giggle out of people. Okay. So when you were down here, you weren't really alone ever.
Okay.
Because if you died in prison, the funeral homes, obviously, they can't get you right away. So they would put you in that room right there.
And that looks like a big refrigerator door. It looks like a great big refrigerator door that
That's
goes
why
into the commercial
that's why I
freezer.
said so. You were never really truly alone in here.
Right. Is that real? What did they really have?
It is a cold storage room because this door. I mean, it's,
Right.
And I'm not really sure what they use. I don't know if they used it to keep food or anything in there, but it's far more interesting when they say they put the dead in there.
Oh
Right?
yeah, no, they
Nobody
very
knows.
well could have.
Never been in here. One day I'd really like to go in here, but it's always stayed locked for some reason.
Huh. Yeah, that's where they keep the paranormals until they let them out at night.
And then you've got other cells. There's a little bit of bathroom down there when they did eventually put bathrooms in here. But
Yeah, see the sink at the top of the toilet, just like what we talked before. Little drinking spout. You don't believe me?
I know.
Been there, done that. I already confessed.
But this was a very horrible place. I'll tell you that much. This was not a place that you wanted
So they
to
only
come.
had the one
Nope.
cell down here in the hole?
This one, that end one where the toilet is. There's
Okay.
another one on that side, and there's 2 more here.
Okay, and so did they have a guard that came down every
you
day
just-
and emptied the honey pot, or
No.
You just
But basically they would just let you sit in there, and then an inmate would come down eventually and empty it.
fire hose it all out?
Nope, they would have to clean it with hands.
Wow.
And then it was reported that an inmate did hang himself in this cell by using the pipe
Right.
and the concrete step. And a lot of people go, well, how can you hang yourself from that height? You can.
All you
It's-
gotta have is your
it's-
feet off. You can just curl your legs up.
It's pretty much like positional asphyxiation. So you go down and you crouch like that. Yeah.
Wow.
So this place can be very active
I would assume.
or very peaceful. It's
Really?
funny. It's really weird. Some people have that they just want to go to sleep when they're down here.
Really?
Yeah. And then other people, they just can't handle it.
See,
So it's
I'm
issues-
not one that's in tune to the paranormal at all.
Well, it's because your mind's not open. You have a closed mind.
No, I believe that it exists. Yeah, I do have a closed mind, but that's neither here nor there. But it's just one of those things that
Okay, so it's daytime. If you came back at night, you might have a little different aspect.
I might have to come up with $50.
They could be here during the day too.
Yeah, they are. They are. Definitely. I can tell you that right now.
She's a lot more in tune to
I
that
can
stuff.
feel things right now. It's fine.
I'm not touching on that. You know what I mean? It's like, I just try not to.
Yeah.
Although I did feel a little bit, where was it? East Siberia?
Today?
Yeah. I had to shake that one off. That wasn't very nice. So, but, all right, so now, as you can see, how it used to be
Right.
bakery and that. So this area, so imagine this area from that wall to that wall without this particular area here.
Okay.
And without the black curtain behind the little theater that was put in after the prison closed for the public in Deer Lodge because the theater burnt down.
Okay.
So imagine all of that gone. all the way down, and it would look similar to those stairs
Okay.
that would go into that other cell house. This was the mess hall.
Okay. And this mess hall then would probably be 150 feet long and probably
All the way across.
50, 60 feet wide. So it was a big mess hall.
Yeah. And in here, you all face the same way.
Oh,
Okay.
when you were eating?
So that kind of cut down on the talking, okay? And then the rule that Deputy Warden Rothy had was eat what you want, or take what you want, eat what you take. And if you didn't, that could get you in the hole.
That could get you in the hole.
Yeah, so here, take all you want, eat all you take.
Take all you want.
That was the number one rule.
Or else you go to the hole.
You could if you wasted food.
I'll bet you didn't waste it when you came back out after eating bread and water for 10 days.
No, but you know what? Originally, the food in here was phenomenal because it was all homegrown
Right. Yeah.
until they started going to processed stuff when they cut it all down. But then in the 50s, late 50s, 60s, this all turned into dormitories. So it would look like, so there's the mess hall. And here. So
Okay, so it was just
it's almost like an army barracks.
Like an army barracks, yeah,
Yep.
with bunk beds and
Yep.
stuff.
So you can see this wall here. So this was these windows,
Right.
you know. Yeah.
And so these must have been some of the lower risk inmates that they had in the dormitories.
They had it was a close and then a medium 2, a medium 3, medium 1, and then a minimum.
Okay.
Those were your status levels. Yeah. But being overpopulated, it's hard, you know, to separate when you don't
Right.
have the room,
Yeah.
you know. And then you
Well,
have,
then where did the mess hall go after this?
they built, right, remember how I said when we were looking at that picture in the admin
Right.
building, there was another metal hut on the other side of the
Okay,
big,
okay, yep.
that was the mess hall.
Okay.
Yeah. So then this then was the arts. This was like an arts room where they
Okay.
could make things. And it was
Leather
also
crafting and
and it was also the TV room. And there's
yeah,
one
and
thing-
we got a great big TV. This
That's the
thing is
original.
a whole 12-inch by 12-inch screen.
Black and white.
Black and white, and I'll bet it didn't even have a remote control. I bet somebody had to go up and actually turn the channels.
Yep.
Like when we were kids.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's got an antenna on top. No
And-
Wi-Fi or cable, and so you had what, 6 channels?
I don't know, maybe less than that. I
Maybe
would think,
less than
4.
that.
But I do know that you only watched what the guards wanted to watch. You
Oh,
didn't
really?
have the choice. Yeah,
So black and white or color?
black and white.
Only black and
Only
white.
black and white.
Okay. So let's watch the reruns of Beverly Hillbillies
Billies.
and Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, right? So then you see this is the tunnel.
Oh, okay.
So basically,
Wow.
remember that tower that I told you that they brought the inmates through into prison? Okay. There was a metal door inside there, and the guards could come down here.
Okay.
So in the 59 riot, this is how the guards came in. The prisoners, this is the only area the inmates didn't get hold of during that
Okay.
riot. And this is where they found out what was going on because there was an inmate who made a sandwich in the kitchen, right? Put a note inside it, handed it to one of the guards in here. And when he opened it up, it said where they were keeping the hostages and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But they
I
could.
hope he never got caught.
Who knows? I
They
don't
should
know.
have turned
That's
him
right.
loose when
Right,
things
right.
were over with just for his own protection.
Yeah, but this kind of goes where the guards can get up into the towers in the cell blocks without being
Okay.
with the inmates and stuff. So it went all through the prison underneath because you
Wow.
are now right underground. You're not in it. There's no building above you.
Okay.
This is solid
That's-
concrete
Okay.
and the outside.
Okay. And then these tunnels are about 3.5 feet wide,
Yep.
maybe 4 feet wide. And they're comfortable in here. I mean, the height on it is 8 foot. And
When you say you're comfortable, come back here at nighttime and I will show you.
oh yeah, it's dark. It's definitely dark.
And
But-
this actually is not dark. It gets a lot darker in here. And some people have bad reactions in here.
But as far as my term comfortable, it's not like it's closed in claustrophobic.
No.
It's not uneasy. It's not dingy, dirty.
Nope.
But it's definitely not light. It's just concrete walls. It's a tunnel.
And this is what I was picturing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We're looking at a theater room from the tunnel side, where we have our door that's 3 foot by
It's a gun port.
10 inches. It's a gun port.
Yep.
And as you come by here and turn and look, you see somebody staring at you. Have no idea who he is, but his hair is kind of frazzled, and so am I. Anyway, but yeah.
I put this up here and I had totally forgotten about it until I started hearing people screaming in the daytime. And then I suddenly remembered. But at nighttime, here's the funny thing at nighttime. And this is gonna be loud.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So this would be up here, okay? And then I would tell people standing in here, I said, can you do me a favor? Can you open up the gun port and let some air through here? And they would pull this down standing right at it. And see that? Scream. Oh my God.
And the gun port does have a cover on it.
Yeah, it's very heavy.
It is very heavy. It's steel. But when the guards pulled that down and they were sitting in church, I'm sure that everybody knew that the guards were looking.
Yep. And here, even though they're not sharp now, they're still damaged, but these were razor sharp.
Yeah, they look like the cutter blades for farm equipment.
Right. And so if an inmate tried to grab the gun, all he had to do was put it, and it would literally impale his hand.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this theater that you see in here, and like I said, this is a theater that was put up after the prison closed for the public when the local theater burnt. And it was a way for the community to have somewhere to come and watch
do they
a film.
still use it?
Very rarely now.
Was it used while there were prisoners here?
No, this was all mess
afterwards?
hall. Yeah, okay. This was closed. The theater that the prisoners had is the last building we're going to go to.
Okay.
But yeah, so this is the tunnel. No, this is that is a barber's chair, original barber's chair. But this is where they would arts, crafts, television. The barber shop was in the cell house. Oh. Actually, in the cell house. So, and they would have it, chained off, and you'd come in and you'd sit, have your hair done. All right, and so we're gonna walk out. Watch your head when you go up.
Okay.
Don't whack it. And we're almost at the end of the prison. Took longer than I thought it would.
But it's been extremely interesting.
And we're only really touching on things,
right. Well,
okay.
And there again, that's kind of what this podcast is. I'm wanting people to hear what's going on, get some of the history, and cover some of that, which we've done very, very well. And I'm hoping that they will stop by and actually.
Oh, you have to come. If you're anywhere near this place, come in, and it's hidden treasures in this museum. The cars in the museum, they are a hidden treasure because people just don't realize how can that many cars be put in that small an area.
Right. And you've got some really nice ones, if I remember right. I'm excited to go to the car part of the museum.
And I'm going to hand you over I'm hoping he's still there. So the last building that you see here is the theater. This is one, if not the only prison that had its own actual theater inside the walls.
Okay.
It's built by the inmates. The money was donated by William Clark from Butte, okay, for all the stuff that the inmates had done in the community.
Okay.
Building the walls and stuff.
Building roads and houses and all. Yeah.
Inside, it had seats, luxury seats. It had balcony. They would have a big brass band. Excuse me. They would have boxing matches in here.
Really?
The governor would come. Dignitaries from around would come. Public would come. They had movies in here.
They just brought the inmates in here?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so, this was accessible to the whole entire inmate population.
Did they do community events in here also, or
Yeah.
just inmate stuff?
I think they did some shows, and the public was allowed to attend. They'd come
Okay.
in here. Now, I'm just standing here because in 1975, the bandmaster was beaten, and they never found out who did it. 3 months later, a guard was in here and smelt it smoldering, and they had set it on fire, and it destroyed everything.
Who set it on fire?
They don't know that inmates, they believe, but they don't have, even to this day, have not solved that as to who did it.
Wow.
And it smoldered for 2 hours before they realized, and by that time it was too late. And when you go on the exit, you'll see the fire hoses. That was all they had in those days to put it out. It completely gutted this place. Oh. So sad. But like I said, the curator, she's doing a great job on working on a grant to restore with the roof, the walls, the outside facade, everything. Now, we don't open it up to the public in the daytime. We do at nighttime as long as it's not raining, because it leaks and there's pigeons in there, and when you mix the two together,
Right.
it's not a pleasant fall if you fall down. It holds the galloping gallows.
Oh, okay. The ones that traveled from county to county. Wow, that's too bad that it caught fire, or that it was arson.
And you can see, if you look closely, you can still see where it's all burnt, the burnt timbers.
Right.
And if you look, see, they had stairs going up either side, but now there's nothing, because it used to be a balcony and everything. Now it's just a sheer drop. So if you really look, you can see.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Right?
if you look through the screen, you can see the
Yeah.
staircases. They were really ornate.
It was beautiful.
Now, did prisoners build this also?
Yes, they did.
The prisoners built this.
And there was a huge hand-painted backdrop on the stage of the Last Supper. So when you go back into the visitor center, take a look at the photographs and you'll see what it was like inside.
And there's
Okay.
pillars like the Roman pillars
Yep.
and stuff on both sides
Yeah.
of the stage.
Yep.
Wow. This
Now-
building had to have been spectacular.
It was.
You can see
It
the
was.
the ornament
Beams.
and stuff that were still hanging on the wall.
And then you have right in the middle the galloping gallows.
Yes.
So the top part with the trap door and everything, that is the real deal.
Okay.
The stairs they did replace a little,
Right.
later, but
And how would they
10
transport
people.
these? This
It's
is sitting 8
Roman.
foot tall.
no, it's each piece is numbered with a Roman numeral,
Okay.
and so they would take it.
They would unbolt it and
Yep.
put it on a
Like a wagon.
truck or wagon. And
Yep.
wow.
And they would transport it. And then, as you can see here, these were the last people. So it was used
In 1939. for
They
Lee
actually were
Simpson.
going to use it in 78,
Oh, really?
but it became unusual and cruel.
Right.
So
Huh. And there's a
Now-
wagon in here that says Montana State Prison. Is that the wagon that they
no,
would've-
I think that is a wagon.
Actually, they had cars by that time.
Yeah,
So
that is an authentic wagon. It's just been
Right.
ramped up. But for your listeners and that, everybody needs to know why. Okay, I'm not going to give the answer, so maybe your listeners
Okay.
can call it in. Why there is 13 steps on a gallows,
there's
always
13
to make it
steps.
an official gallows.
Okay.
Why is there always 13 steps and 13 nooses?
I was going to say there's 13 wraps on the noose too. So
I'm not going to tell you the answer.
the number 13 is instrumental here. I've never
Nope.
delved into that. So if anybody has the answer to that, let us know.
And then when we're off, I'll let you know the answer, but I'm not going to give you the answer.
I'm going to have to take guesses before you let me know, just to keep it going. But I'm sure Google has the answer. So maybe not.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. I'm not
But,
going to give you the answer. But then, that was the official execution method.
Okay. And they
so-
took those particular gallows to all the counties in the state of Montana.
Yeah. It was
And Montana's a huge
Yeah.
state.
It was cheaper to do that than transport prisoners to prison to be hanged. See what I mean?
Wow, yeah.
So instead of you were convicted, you were put in the jail, And you know how the old days was, when you got sentenced to death, you'll be taken from this place to your place of execution from whence you came. God have mercy on your soul. And it would be that place that you were hanged.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty cool, huh?
It is. This is just absolutely fascinating. And I really, really appreciate your time, Heather.
Yeah, no problem.
This has been great. You've done a great job of taking us through this facility.
Trying to.
Oh, no, you're not trying. You're getting the job done. Trying's a failure word. You've done good.
Okay, here's the thing I recommend to people that the prison side itself, if you are really into the history and you read a lot on that, make at least 2 hours of your time because it is big and there's so much history here. That's just for the prison part itself.
I was going to say, we've just kind of scratched the surface and we're pushing 2 hours right now.
And so then you, if you come and look for all the other prisons, just, hey, come stay in Deer Lodge. We have campgrounds. We have the river. We have some great restaurants and even some good hotels in town.
And
make a weekend of it.
Outdoor recreation.
Yeah.
I mean,
make a weekend of it.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And this has been fantastic.
Yep.
I so much appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
And I always finish out by saying the world is full of wonders.
Oh, it is.
Get out
Mysteries.
and explore.
Mysteries. And don't forget, find the answer to that question.
Find the answer to that question. And everybody have a wonder-filled day.
And summer.
And summer.
Yeah.
Haul the roll and go, where am I to go? Meet Johnny, where am I to go? For I'm a young and a sailor lad, and where am I to go?